Hello everybody, I'm back to YouTube. I've got a new camera and it has a new microphone, so hopefully everything will work out a lot better this time, and we can get started with things. So I got a bunch of announcements today, most of which relate to kind of finishing out the semester. Hard to believe, but this is week 6. And we're almost done with the Zybook. I think we've got 6, 7, and 8, so kind of, 2-3 weeks, however you count it, to go. And then we have our spring break, and then we kind of rush to the end of the semester. So the schedule that I see for now is that, we'll keep working in the Zybook until spring break. Then our final exam. Remember, the final exam is 2 parts. One is an objective exam based on the Zybook material. Basically multiple choice, that kind of thing, really boring. It'll run as a My Courses quiz, and so you'll take it in My Courses, and what you'll do there is I'll post the quiz will become available on Monday, the 17th of March, and you'll have until Saturday, the 22nd, to complete it. But the way that the My Courses quizzes work is that you can start at any time during that period, but once you start, you only get 2 hours to complete the exam. So you have to find a 2-hour block where you can, get your work done. And, you got lots of time. It shouldn't be any problem. I even made sure to include a Saturday just in case. By the way, I could be talked into, if somebody if this helps in any way, I could be talked into making that due on Sunday. Doesn't really matter to me, especially the objective exam, which is auto-graded. So you do your thing in there, answer all the questions based on the Zybook material. You click submit or whatever it does, and poof, there's your grade. So, really easy thing to do. And that is, based on the Zybook material. These are, it's a take-home exam, so you're welcome to use any resources at your disposal. If you want to go check AI or something, go right ahead. If you want to, dig through the Zybook to make sure that you get the right answer, I'm okay with that too. Whatever it takes, what I want you to do is to get a good grade on this exam. And if that means taking the time to go back into the Zybook and look for it and find the right answer and make sure you select it and everything, well, you know what? You're never going to get that wrong again. So it's just a really good study technique. And that's what we'll do with the objective exam. Now, I'll also give you a practical examination. And a practical exam is I'm going to give you stuff to do. That's what practical exams are. And so what you'll probably use, and you had some stuff about this earlier in the Zybook, is MySQL. It can be installed on your desktop. You can run it as a VM. You could run it as a Docker container. You could run SQL in Amazon and in their free tier and send your request to them, whatever it takes. And then that's the server side. Then you also need some sort of an editor. Now, VS Code has an SQL extension. Awesome. Give you great feedback on exactly how to code, what you want to do, ask you lots of questions about, where you're headed, you name it. Plus, it's, you've got an AI component that can be used in there. All of those are fine. You can use whatever one you want. Now, the easiest one to install is probably going to be MySQL Workbench, because that kind of installs at the same time as MySQL Community Edition server, but and you've done some of this already. But if you want to transition to VS Code or any other editor, you're welcome to do it. Okay, so, and once again, open book, open notes. the one thing you can't do on these two separate exams, the objective and the practical, is to ask other people. So you can, you can talk about things, you can work on your group project, you can, get in touch with the other people in the class. All that stuff is just fine. Love it. I think it's great. Hopefully, I know it's hard in a distance class, but, hopefully you'll make friends in the class. I love that. That's great. But just don't ask them, how are you going to answer question number 2? That's the one thing you can't do. So both of these exams, and this is the final exam because it's the end of what we're going over in this part of the class. Both will be posted on Monday, the 17th, and I'll probably make those available pretty early in the morning. They're just about done, so it's not a big deal for me to make them available in the morning, and then do, like I said, Saturday is what I have it coded as now in my courses, but we'll if somebody needs it to be Sunday, let me know. I don't mind. I'm not going to grade anything on Sunday anyhow. So whatever you want. But anyhow, so that's that part of the that's kind of the end to the Zybook part of the class. And then right after that, then we get into the big query part of the class. And, the way that's going to work is I'm going to give you one assignment that will force you to do some e-commerce analytics kind of stuff and use BigQuery, and you'll find out how to do it. You'll know how to find those public data sets. You'll know all of that kind of stuff from doing the one assignment. And then you'll do your group project in BigQuery and Data Looker Studio. And I think you'll find that it really easy to work with. You're going to be using standard SQL through there. We're going to be dealing with analytics databases that are meant for this kind of use. So it shouldn't be that difficult for you to get rolling on that. But anyhow, so the BigQuery assignment, that's going to be due on the 28th of March. So after spring break, about a week after your final exam will be due. The next week, so that's the 28th is like a Friday or Saturday or something like that. The next Monday, something like that, is the 1st. And besides all your April Fool's jokes, you'll have to turn in your group project proposal. And we'll talk about that again. Probably, I may do another recording this week. I may do it next week. And we'll talk about everything that goes into that group project proposal. How to write it, what I'm looking for, everything that you'd want to do. And it's not hard. So it's fine. And then I'll give you feedback through my courses by the 3rd of April. My feedback generally is, for most student projects, you're trying to do too much in a really short amount of time. And so generally what I say is focus in. Make sure that you get to the real meat, the real substance of what you want to get to with this project. Now, you saw some projects earlier. I showed them to you. And I think I left them posted out there. So you can take a look at some of the kind of things that you can do that are above and beyond just the normal ask a couple of questions about a foolish public data set. Or you can bring multiple data sets together. That's usually a great way to kind of flex your muscles. Not through join statements, but by using different public data sets to look at different sides of the issue that you're interested in. The Chicago real estate one, we looked at the Chicago crime data to get a feel for the culture of criminality by ward, and then we looked at other data sets to look at what's the demographics of the different wards, who's involved with this kind of thing. And so that's the example of ways that you might approach that. But anyhow, so I'll give you feedback by the 3rd, and then after that, the course is all about working on those projects. And so what I want to do, what my goal is to give you time to work on this, because I do lots of student projects in class, and what I find is that if I don't give you time to work on it, well, I get what I should expect, which is work that's half-hearted and done because you're working on everything else for this class and for others. So anyhow, so what I do now is I carve out time at the end of the class, and I say, now is your time to work on your projects, and so I'll give you that time to work on your projects and your presentations. Remember, those are going to be like 20-minute videos, which you can post to YouTube, you can post to wherever you want. YouTube's easy, but it's up to you. And that'll be a 20-minute presentation where you talk about what your findings are. And then after that, 5 days after that, right after the end of classes, you'll have to turn in a report. Now, you guys have to write a capstone, do a capstone project, and this will give you a chance to get used to writing about the projects that you work on. So that's my goal. So this is our and this is all in my courses, and let's see, I don't have that tab up here, but it's all in my courses with the correct dates and everything. So, and the changes that I made in here are really kind of small, and I looked at what they are in the syllabus and what they were originally in my courses, and I think I changed one of them, probably the exams, by a week, and that's it. So it wasn't that, I didn't make that many changes here, but and the changes I'm making are like 3 weeks out, so I don't feel too badly about that. But here we go. So here's your project, and we've talked about this before. I'll talk soon about how to, what the proposal looks like, what I'm expecting, how to do it, those kind of things, because you weren't born knowing how to write a proposal for this class. So everybody's got to learn it. I understand that. That's not a problem. But anyhow, we'll talk about that too. And so this week's Zybook material is probably the most interesting part of the Zybook material for the whole class. And the reason I say that is because it's the kind of stuff that lasts your whole career. It's not that SQL is going to change very fast either, because it's 50 years old anyhow. But this is the kind of things to learn about and to think about that can be applied in lots of different parts of a career, and can help you to get ahead in a job, and maybe get off the keyboard if that's your desire, and get more into a management role, or learn to apply these things that we've talked about in a way that makes sense for an organization. And so this week's material is all about how to actually do system analysis and design. And we have different classes. I teach a class in system analysis and design, and it's a lot of fun. And we use the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York, as an example project to work through. Then I have all my students do their own project. But so how do you apply these? We have this great tool that's an SQL database. How do we apply it in an organization? Well, the way that you do it is by learning about the business process that you want to make more efficient by doing it through a database. And to do a good job of that, you need to be a good systems analyst. And a systems analyst, these are some of the characteristics of a good systems analyst. Your impertinence, your ability to question everything, but at the same time, do it in a politically correct way, because Most of the time you're learning about how different business processes work by talking to other people. And you can, I guess wokeness and all that stuff are bad these days, but you still have to be nice to people. And especially if you want them to take time out of their day to meet with you to help you to understand, because you're going to sound like a real idiot that doesn't know anything, how their job works. And that's going to take time out of their day, where if their manager looks for production levels out of them in a given day, their production levels are going to go down. And the manager's got to approve, the person you're talking to's manager has to approve you taking time out of their day to talk to them. Your manager has to approve it. So, everybody's pulling for you to do a good job, but you have to, do the right thing. So question everything, but in a nice way. Impartiality, consider all the issues to find the best solution. Don't say, well, that sounds like an idiotic way to do something. Instead, think about it and say, well, maybe there's a reason why people do things that way, and I just don't understand it yet. That's a better approach to things. And if you don't understand the business process that you're working with, whatever tool you come up with is not going to work because you didn't understand what it needed to do. So finding out how the system works is probably more important than the coding of the system. And so anyhow, impartiality, consider all issues to find the best solution. Relax constraints, assume anything is possible, and eliminate the infeasible. Don't say, when somebody says, it would be really nice if the system could do this, don't say, well, it can't, and move on. Because maybe it can. Maybe if you learn more about what that person wants the system to do, you can figure out a way to really help them and get it to work right. Attention to detail. Every fact must fit with every other fact. Thinking, not forgetting things, taking notes on conversations, making drawings on a blank sheet of paper or a lined notebook pad. That's a good open way to consider lots of different examples. Instead of trying to go directly to software, which is very constrained in the way that it allows you to address what you're working on, use something that leaves you open and makes it so you can consider different ways of thinking about things. And reframing, challenge yourself to look at the organization in new ways, because that's what people want you to do. As soon as they say, figure out how to do this better, that means they're interested in changing the way the organization works. They want you to do that. So organizational components to understand, business objectives that drive what and how work is done. What's the work that your organization does? And how can it be profitable doing that work? Information people need to do their jobs. Many systems' job is to provide people who interact with customers the information they need to do a better job, and that's an important part of a lot of systems. The data. How is it organized? Where is it stored? How is it currently used? How does it get fed into the system? How does it interact with different shipping databases and different databases at everything from the loading dock, where the pallets full of stuff come into your warehouse, and then those pallets get full of stuff, get broken up into individual components, then they have to go out another door on their way to be shipped to the customer, at least in an e-commerce environment. How does all that work? Data transformation and storage. what are the different groups that need access to this data? What are their business goals in accessing the data? How do they store it? What are the requirements for it over time? Does it change over time? How do you go between the shipping system that you're designing your system for to the accounting system where money is kept track of? Data handling, dependencies and sequences, who's involved, how. Data handling and processing rules. What about those accounting rules around things like, who can change prices that things are sold at? What are the role of the managers in all of this stuff? Policies and guidelines that describe the nature of the business and market and the environment it operates in. What are the big challenges facing your organization in the future? How is the market for your organization changes? And then key events that affect data values and when they occur. We've got all of that accounting information that needs to, when an item is sold, it needs to credit the account that says item sold, and we need to work with other systems within the organization to make sure that the data is handled in the correct manner. Well, how do you go about doing that? Well, I talked about talking to people. Well, there's another way that you can do it too, and that's observing users. Watching different workers on the production floor, in the warehouse, how do they do their jobs? What does it look like when the workers are doing their jobs? And what are the systems that they interact with? How do they update information on the work in progress? As the work comes to their workstation, they do their thing to it and then push it on to the next workstation. How is that encoded? Those are all big questions about that you can see really well from just observing users. Now, a lot of production floors have upper offices and things with windows that look out onto the production floor. Exactly with this in mind, because people need to do this, and so you might want to get access to that. But then going down and talking to the workers during lunch breaks or whatever, that might be another place for you to get better insights as to what do the workers think are the things that are holding them back. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, these are important too. People can change their normal behavior when they know they're being observed. That's kind of weird, but it happens. And so, but it's part of it. This is interesting stuff, is what I hope you take away from this. Come on. And analyzing procedures and documents are great when you're trying to figure out how a system works, because it gives you, as maybe you have sheets of paper, maybe you have computer screens, it gives you insight into what are the important variables that people are keeping track of, and how does an item move from the warehouse into a work in progress and then into a finished product that then gets pushed out the door. Those are the big steps involved, and there's always artifacts that are created along that path. And finding out what those artifacts are is a really important way to figure out how the organization actually works. So Agile is one way that we do things these days. And the other course that I talk about is an Agile development course, and I think it's really interesting. I'm not going to read through all of this. I'll post these slides. You can look through it at your leisure. But one of the things about Agile is that we talk a lot about starting out with a minimum viable product. When it comes after you do your system analysis part of the process, you usually come up with, well, what's the main big problem that I have to overcome to make this system usable? And then the goal of the agile development process is to start by, how can I take a crack at that big problem I need to overcome, and then to go back to my users and say, how did I do? Does this get over that problem? And then when they say, no, you didn't get it right, then you go back and you try again. And so that's what's called an iterative prototyping approach to designing new systems. And it starts by the system analysis, do the best job that you can to figure out what you need to do. Develop what's called a minimum viable product. That is, what's the smallest amount of code that I can generate that gets me started in coming up with something that's useful. Not complete, but just started. And then working from prototypes. Working, in 2-week blocks is the usual sprints that we use in Agile. And then at the end of every sprint, your goal is to have a new prototype that's made of actual working code that users can look at and test, and then give you feedback to make it better in the next iteration. So Agile is a combination of defining a series of iterations in advance, but at the same time accepting user input along the way to try and make sure that your iteration is useful. And it always involves going from working software to working software. The end of every sprint should be something new that users can look at. Not just a vague idea, something for them to look at. So the methodology for doing this really starts out with identifying the problem. What are you trying to do here? Out of that comes initial requirements. Those are the things the system must do to be useful. Now, that may change over time, but this is an initial set of requirements. Then develop a prototype that kind of does that. Now, it may not have a full functioning, web-based interface and everything. It may be a command line thing that just does a part of the process, but it's a place to start. So develop a prototype, and with that working prototype, implement and use the prototype. Does it actually do anything? Then observe the problems that come up with that working prototype, and then revise and enhance the prototype by taking those problems and turning them into new requirements. And those new requirements go into the revision and enhancing of the prototype to come up with the next version. And then try again. And it's all about just keep on working and trying to get things done in a way that makes sense. Okay, I am going to stop right there. And these next slides I may do another one for. So I hope that helps everybody. Take care and have a good week. And get in touch with me if you have any questions. We got tests and things coming up. We got projects coming up. The first half of the course is easy peasy, but then it gets a lot harder as we go. So take care, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.